I get the honor and privilege of introducing Alicia Hyatt, who's the editor-in-chief of the Canadian Mining Journal. It's one of Canada's oldest mining publications and one of the most trusted. Alicia has nearly 15 years of experience as a mining journalist. She's been covering projects in mines, new technology, environmental and social issues related to mining. And she's also the editor of Diamonds in Canada's magazine. And before joining CMJ in 2017, she served as editor of the Northern Miner newspaper. Alicia and John, welcome. Alicia, I'll pass it over to you, and you can introduce John, and we can get all the updates on what's going on with Eagle Gold Mine, such a fantastic project.
Great. Thank you so much, Anthony. One correction there, I was copy editor of the Northern Miner, not editor. Hi, John. Welcome. I'm just going to introduce John McConnell. He is the president and CEO of Victoria Gold, which owns and operates the Eagle Gold Mine in the Yukon. John has more than 35 years of experience in the mining sector, mostly in Canada's Northern Territories. He was previously president and CEO of Western Celtic Mines until its acquisition by Sherwood Copper. He was VP of NWT projects for De Beers Canada, primarily overseeing permitting and development of the Snap Lake mine. He's also been mine manager at Breakwater Resources Nanisivik mine on Baffin Island, and he's worked for Strathcona Mineral Services. John is a graduate of the Colorado School of Mines with a BSc in mining engineering. Welcome, John, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here.
So congratulations is in order. Victoria Gold's Eagle Gold Mine began commercial production on Canada Day, July 1st this year. So tell us a little bit about the operation and how it's shaping up as a brand new gold mine in the Yukon this year.
Yeah, it's going reasonably well. You know, if I had my druthers, we would not be ramping up a new mine during a pandemic. It has certainly been challenging. But as you said, we declared commercial production July 1st, and we're now ramping up to full production, and 2021 will be our first full year.
So tell us, the company is benefiting from a strong gold price right now, but as you mentioned, of course, you're ramping up during a pandemic. Tell us a little bit about the challenges there and how you've managed to keep everything on track with all of those disruptions.
Sure. I mean, I think we identified COVID as a huge problem early on. And we worked closely with the territorial government to ensure that we could maintain operations. We put in a lot of protocols around social distancing on the job, in the cafeteria, those sorts of things, testing. I shouldn't say COVID testing, but we do have essentially everyone have a medical before they go to site. Yeah, we switched our rotation schedule from 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out to 4 weeks in, 4 weeks out. We now rely on charter as opposed to sched flights. So a lot of changes. I would say one of the toughest areas to deal with is, initially the Yukon shut down its borders. So anybody from outside of the Yukon had to self-isolate within Whitehorse for 2 weeks before they went to the mine site. On July 1st, they opened up the bubble to include the Yukon and BC, and that really helped us because probably 35% of our employees come from British Columbia. So, we could get back to a more normal, but more importantly, when you're ramping up, you really need vendor support. And so for the first, from March until the end of June, we had no vendor support on site because all of the vendors are, across the country and into the US. So there was a lot of Zoom calls trying to troubleshoot various aspects of the operation, but it was a big relief once we could get vendor support in early July.
And have all of those issues delayed your schedule at the mine in terms of full production?
A little bit, not a huge amount. We've got a great team of people on site, and but it, I would say ramp up, was probably 10% behind schedule, but we've caught that up now, and we're in good shape for full production in 2021.
Mm-hmm. So at full capacity, the mine will produce around 200,000 ounces gold per year at all-in sustaining cash costs of $774 US per ounce. Very attractive at the current gold price. But this didn't happen overnight. Victoria Gold's history with Eagle goes back more than 10 years. Can you take us back to the first time that you visited the project and what the potential was that you saw there?
Yeah, I think the first time I visited was probably in 2008. And, one of our board members, Hugh Agro, suggested we have a look at the Eagle deposit. He felt it had a lot of very similar characteristics to Kinross's Fort Knox mine in Alaska. So we started due diligence back in, I think, late 2007, early 2008. And then we tried to make an agreement with the owner, which was a company called Strata Gold, but we couldn't get there until the financial crisis of 2008, 2009. And we finally closed the purchase of Strata Gold in June of 2009.
So you've seen a lot of ups and downs during your ownership of this operation, starting with the financial crisis and going through pretty bad bear market in gold, and now you're seeing the upside of the gold price. The gold price is working in your favor right now, but a lot of the heavy lifting, as we mentioned, had to be done in some difficult markets. You initially struck a deal, talking about the financing of the mine, you initially struck a deal with an international bank, BNP Paribas, for debt financing in, I think it was 2017, but you ended up walking away from that. How did you manage to secure a better deal at a time when lenders weren't exactly throwing money at big capital projects?
Yeah, we were always working on 2 or 3 tracks of financing. We didn't want to put all our eggs in one basket. So yes, we were working with BNP, and we never really walked away from an agreement with them because we never ever signed it. But, we kept that deal alive. At the same time, we were talking to various royalty and streaming companies, and we were talking to private equity firms. So, we were very busy, our CFO and I, and, we at least had 3 tracks on the go at any one time. And, at a certain point, we kind of pitted one against the other. And in the end, we went with, selling a royalty to Osisko and a debt and equity package with Orion Mine Finance.
And so the whole package was, I believe, $505 million. And I think it was the biggest financing on the TSX Venture Exchange for in 25 years or something like that. Is that correct?
I don't know that stat, actually.
Oh.
We've since upgraded to the TSX. But,
Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned similarities to the Fort Knox mine in Alaska, which has been operating for 24 years. Can you tell us a little bit more about the parallels you saw there?
Yeah, the geology is identical. Both deposits are in the Titina belt of rocks that runs through the Yukon and through Alaska. It's a granodiorite intrusive into metasediments, And, the gold is on banded quartz veins.
Mhm. Okay.
So very similar, I think, to geologists looking at core from the two deposits probably couldn't tell them apart.
Mhm. Just to get into your personal history a little bit, the majority of your experience in the mining industry has been in Canada's north. How has that shaped your approach to business with Victoria Gold?
Well, I think, from a technical side, I certainly understand that you can mine in Canada's north. There are challenges that come with dealing with cold weather. And, I always say that Murphy's alive and well in the mining business, but he spends a lot of time north of 60. But what's required is just more planning and diligence in planning. So, you can do it. You just have to be more careful because, a pipe breaks in Mexico, you just patch it up. A pipe breaks in the Arctic and you've got a big popsicle. So, you got to take those kinds of things into account. But I think what's, on the social side, it's really influenced me because I've worked with many Indigenous people across Canada's north. And, I truly believe that, the people that should benefit from a mining operation in the north are the local residents and the people of that territory. So we've really worked hard to ensure that happens with Eagle.
Mhm. And you really do have an affinity for the north. You actually moved to the Yukon shortly after becoming CEO of Victoria Gold, and you met your wife there. Talk about kismet.
Well, I think it's important that, I often refer to CEOs that live in Vancouver or Toronto as seagulls. They fly in, they eat, they shit, and they fly out again. And that's not the kind of CEO I am. I'm very hands-on and, did this when I was with De Beers. I moved to Yellowknife. Very important that you have that personal interaction with, politicians, regulators, bureaucrats, and that they know you're part of their community. And as you said, fortunately, because I'd moved up there, I met my wife there.
That's amazing. So I get the sense that you're from talking to you and from reading this book that you had commissioned, A Dublin Gulch, about the history of the Eagle Gold Mine, that you're very attached to the project and to the people that made it a success. Just a question about the book. Why did you commission the book and why did you want to tell the story of the mine in that way?
Yeah, I think, as everybody knows, the Klondike Gold Rush was more than 100 years ago and revolved around Dawson City and the Yukon. And so, people in the north, particularly the Yukon, understand mining and the benefits that come from mining. And then as we started developing Eagle, we started to learn the history of both the Eagle and Dublin Gulch area, but also of the Mayo mining district. And, there were many stories, and many of the placer miners that had worked in the area were still around. So I just felt it was worth capturing the history right now. And also, I think, as you pointed out, the financing of Eagle was very unique. There's very few junior mining companies have brought a project from exploration through to production.
Mm-hmm. So giving back to the community is something that's very important to you. in 2012, Victoria Gold started a charity that's aimed at improving student attendance at schools in the Yukon. I'm just wondering why you chose that cause in particular.
Well, it's a little bit self-serving. I mean, our employees in the future, hopefully, are all Yukoners. But to ensure that, we need kids to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And we recognize that the absenteeism in the Yukon was appalling. You know, most students missed a year of school between grades 1 and 6, and 2 years of school between grades 7 and 12. So we thought, you know, anything we can do to try and encourage kids to stay at school would be a long-term benefit for Victoria Gold, the Yukon itself, and the, you know, the greater mining community. So we started small. Victoria contributed, and we raised money. We set up this charity, and it's managed by my wife, and probably takes up 50% of her time, but it's really focused on coming up with community-based projects, you know, that are put forward by either a community organization or the school itself. And we fund programs that encourage kids to go to school. I mean, some of the programs are as simple as buying the kids in the school an alarm clock so that they know when it's time to get up in the morning. You know, to making, you know, win a bike if you have the best attendance during the year. So, but, you know, things that they have to be led by the community itself, not by a bureaucrat in Whitehorse saying, this is what you shall do.
Oh, that's interesting. Have you had measurable results from that program?
Yeah, and I don't have the stats in my head, but certainly Tara, my wife, can, you know, they have a number of ways they measure it, but certainly attendance has improved in the Yukon as a result of the programs we've been funding.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and that is the Every Student Everyday program. That's what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay. So sticking with the community theme, you've built a very good and productive relationship with the local Nacho-Nyak-Dun First Nation. In fact, the elected chief of the First Nation, Simon Mervyn, has compared it to a family relationship, which I thought it interesting. You often hear this relationship characterized as a partnership, but this is one step further. Can you tell us how you built such a great relationship there?
You know, it's just by being in the community, getting to know people. We actually own a home in Mayo, so we spend our summers up there. And, you know, our daughter swims in the swimming pool. She goes to the daycare there. So we're part of the community. And, you know, fortunately, as, you know, a benefit of my job, I've got to know the chief, Simon Mervyn, very well, and we've become friends. I always remember my first meeting with him. I phoned him up and told him I was the new CEO of Victoria Gold, and I wondered if I could buy him lunch. And so we met at the local restaurant one day and sat down, and the first thing he said to me was, "What do you want?" I said, "I don't want anything. I just wanted to have lunch and get to know you a little bit and understand the issues of the community and your First Nation." And he said, "Well, that's refreshing. Normally, CEOs don't invite me for lunch unless they want something." So anyway, that was a start 12 years ago of a great relationship and partnership. And, you know, to this day, we feel very free to give one another a call if there's an issue and discuss it off the record and try and find a solution.
There are often heightened concerns around the potential environmental effects of heap leaching. Eagle is a heap leach mine. Was that a big concern for the Nacho First Nation, and how did you allay those concerns?
Yeah, I think it was a concern not just for NND, but greater Yukon and regulators in the Yukon. And we talked about Kinross's Fort Knox mine. Kinross was excellent, and at one time they were a large shareholder of Victoria, but they made Fort Knox accessible to us, both to our technical team, but also to our permitting team. And we were able to take regulators and community members over to Alaska and visit the Fort Knox mine. And once they saw a large mining operation in operation using cyanide, it generally relieved all their fears.
Mhm.
So, people, cyanide, they equate to James Bond spy movies where the Russian spy has to kill himself and he bites into a cyanide capsule. But we were able to show them that it was very safe to use cyanide and it wouldn't be an issue. And there's still people raise it, and I totally understand that. But things are going well from that perspective now.
Mhm. So, since the pandemic started, a lot of mines in Canada have actually sent home their First Nations employees to avoid spreading COVID-19 into their communities. Is that the case at Eagle?
No, as I said earlier, we were able to work with government officials, the chief medical officer in the Yukon, and come up with protocols that would keep everybody safe and healthy at work, as well as ensure that the community and the NND were safe.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned COVID testing. What is the state of testing and screening at Eagle?
Yeah, we do a lot of screening, but no actual testing. Unless someone has symptoms, then we get them tested. As you know, it's very difficult to discern between people having COVID symptoms and people having common cold and flu symptoms. So
Mm-hmm.
generally, if somebody's on site and they have a runny nose or a sore throat, we put them into isolation. If it doesn't get any worse, we leave them in isolation until they're better. If it gets worse, we have them tested, and but they're in isolation until we get the test results back.
Mm-hmm. And that decision to keep First Nations employees, I believe it's 25% of your workforce is First Nations, employed rather than sending them home. Can you give us a little bit more insight into how you made that decision?
Yeah, we certainly asked people. I mean, obviously, it's an economic decision as well. But, I have one good example. We asked a young employee who was an NND member, you want to go home? And he said, hell no, I want to work.
Hmm.
So I go home. He said, I'm going to be living in my grandmother's basement playing video games. I'm going to get bored. The local drug dealer will know I'm home and I've got money. He'll show up at the door. I'm bored, and I'll be back on drugs again, and living under an overpass in Vancouver. So hell no, I want to keep working.
Well, that's a pretty powerful reason. So I know you're just getting started at Eagle. You've got a 10-year mine life, but can you give us any indication of what your plans are for growing the project? Where do you go from here?
Yeah, we've got a huge land position in the Yukon, and it's only the last 3 years we've started to step out from Eagle and look at the regional potential. We've identified 12 or 13 targets for further exploration. Right now, we're focused on an area called Nugget, It's another large granodiorite intrusive with similar characteristics to the Eagle intrusive. So we built a trail out there in 2019, put in some trenching and some preliminary drill holes, and we thought we'd made a new discovery called Raven. We got back out there in 2019 or in 2020. It was a shortened program because of COVID. We never actually got boots on the ground until mid-July. But we drilled another some 35 holes out there this past summer, and indeed, we have a very exciting discovery. We've traced it now over 750 meters. We've only drilled it to 200 meters, but we're seeing many multi-gram intercepts. So it's early days, and we've got lots of work to do, but it looks like there could be another Eagle-type deposit out to the east.
Is that a little bit higher grade than what you've got now? Your reserves, I believe, are around 0.65 gram per ton.
Yeah, it's early days, but we're seeing many multi-gram intercepts. So, you know, it looks good, but again, I caution people, it's just the start of a long exploration development program to look at it.
Mm-hmm. You've said in the past that you believe that you're going to have multiple mines up in the Yukon. Can you tell us a little bit about those ambitions and how you see that evolving?
Yeah, I think the Mayo mining district in general is proving up very nicely. Just near us is Alexco's silver mine. It's just coming back into production. There's 3 or 4 companies doing exploration around us. One company, Banyan Gold, has some very exciting results that they've been finding, and our road turns off the highway, and they're exploring at kilometer 1 and getting great results there. So, that bodes well for the future. We're the obvious developer in the region. So, it's great to see others spending money on exploration, not just us.
Great. I'm just going to interject, guys. Great conversation. I just want to make sure that we do have time for a couple of questions. I have one here from the audience. Now, John, and Alicia, you've done a great job covering community relations and the role of Indigenous communities near Golden Eagle. But one that pushes down just a little bit more on it, thoughtful question here. The question basically is looking for the right balance. So local inhabitants, their participation in mineral wealth, how is that kind of balance best struck between local inhabitants with historical claims on the land and the wealth that's going to be generated from a project like this?
Sure. So obviously the Greater Territory participates through taxes and royalties to the Crown. But, more than 50% of our employees are from the Yukon. So there's that benefit. And I would say, we probably have in the order of 100 million in contracts to Yukon companies per year going forward. The local First Nation, they also get priority on business opportunities. And we have a full comprehensive impact benefits agreement with them. Once we're profitable and the debt's been repaid, they will receive a net profits royalty. And I often say if we're writing big checks to the First Nation, we're very happy because it means Victoria is doing very well.
Sharing the wealth. That's the way to do it. One more too, John, before we let you go. We've really made an effort, especially with this show, to reach out to the generalist investor as well as the metals investor. So I'm thinking that from the generalist perspective, in the industry, we're all well aware with that kind of traditional valuation price movement for a mining company, kind of The idea is it kind of ramps up during exploration, then kind of falls off. Then as you get into commercial production, you kind of get this ramp up as well.
You're
can you maybe talk
the Lassonde chart.
Yeah, well, he's gotten a lot right over the years. But yeah, you're right. He's put it out there quite a bit. It seems to hold up. Do you agree with it? And can you talk about the Victoria Gold's market valuation? What investors might expect in the coming months as you go into commercial production, either using that as a lens or not?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly believe in that. I invest that way myself. I look for, both early stage discovery companies, but also companies that are moving from development into production. So yeah, I very much believe in the Lassonde curve, and I think it's been Victoria's experience. We've always been in that development phase. We didn't discover this deposit. And we've gone from a company with a market cap 10 years ago of 40 million to a company with a market cap of $1 billion today. So I think that comes from actually putting the shovel in the ground and getting the mine built.
Yeah, it's been a remarkable story. It's fun. It's a type of stock chart that we like to look at and we like to see. And I think for investors, once you hit that commercial production, you can expect another big leg up, especially we'll see where gold is next year. If all the big brains in the world are right, you're going to be coming to commercial production at a pretty historic time. So,
yeah, no, it's the perfect storm for a new gold mine.
Fantastic. Well done, John. All that hard work and perseverance. It's great to see it all come to fruition for you. Very, very happy for you. Alicia, fantastic job. Thank you for that. Sorry to cut you guys off, but we are running a little bit behind here. But a great conversation, a great project for all of our viewers to make sure that they are following as Victoria Gold ramps up into commercial production. Thanks, John. Thanks, Alicia.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alicia. Thanks, Anthony. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.